Okay, so today, this video is useful for anybody studying anything, but it's particularly aimed towards Year 10 students about to start their GCSEs. So once you do start your GCSEs, it's chances are that you're going to feel a little bit stressed, a little bit overwhelmed by some things. It feels a little bit more concrete. You hear the word GCSE about 200 times in different lessons and you get a bunch of information. I'm here to give you some tips on how to manage all of that, right? To get the most out of your studies, to eliminate as much stress as possible, get the maximum amount of marks and the best grades that you possibly can by the time that you get to end of year 11. I'm going to give you my top 5 tips on how to do all of that. Okay, so here we go. Tip number 1 is this: get organized. You're going to be getting, like I say, loads of information about stuff. In your first few lessons, you'll probably get some information on what's covered in your GCSE courses, and that's spread over a number of different subjects. What you need to make sure you've done is set up some systems to get organised with that as soon as you possibly can. So once you're getting that information, make sure it's stored in a logical manner. Make sure you've got folders that are organising bits of paper or anything like that. If you're at home, make sure you've got a workspace that's set up where you can work efficiently and well, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Make sure you've got your books nice and neatly organised. You've got a clear space for where your books are and an order for how they go. If you're living between 2 houses, make sure you know what you need on particular days and you're organised with your timetable. If you know you've had problems with that in the past, it's a really key skill to get on top of, because the easier you do that now, the less time you have to do with that backfilling organisation later on, which takes ages once you've got all of the stuff together. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 is this: work out what you enjoy. Most people start their GCSEs focusing on grades, and that's the main thing that they think about. But actually, the one thing you want to prioritise at the start of year 10 and when you're starting doing your GCSE programme is finding out what you actually enjoy in subjects. Working out what it is that's interesting about the subject, right? If you're struggling with a subject, if you're not finding it as interesting as before, we're going to work on that later on. But the main thing to focus on is, this is quite interesting, I quite like this. Focus on the knowledge and getting the knowledge and doing the actual thing in the subject, because the grades will come behind that, right? Tip number 3 is this: set yourself some goals and then work out how to reach them. Now that's 2 parts to it, okay, to step number 3. Yes, we want you to set yourself some goals, but if you know you've been getting kind of standard 3, standard 4s in a particular subject and your goal is to get a standard 9, what you can't usually do is just start working at a standard 9. What you have to do is work out, right, what stages do I need to do to get better? If you set yourself an unrealistic goal, then you're just going to keep failing at it and it's going to be massively demoralizing. What you want to do is set yourself a goal that is a little bit further on and know what you've got to do to achieve that goal. If you're putting loads of work into reading a book on a particular subject and it's not going to get you the marks that you need later on, then there's no real point in doing that work. Okay, what we want to do is maximize the amount of marks we're getting, maximize the things that we know are useful, and we're going to use one of our later stages in order to do that. So that's stage 3. Set yourself goals and then work out, right, what's the next stage to get to that? What's the little step that I need to take to get to the next stage? Okay. Number 4 is set up good routines now. And this is similar to our get organised earlier on, but your routines are going to be very, very helpful to you. One of the things that I particularly want to talk about is homework, right? So what we don't want is homework that is just done sporadically whenever you can get a chance to do it. We don't want homework that stretches on for hours and hours and hours. And we don't want homework that is just literally 5 minutes where you're just rushing to get something done. Start with routines where you're saying, I'm going to do homework at this particular time and I'm going to set that time aside. And when I get to the end of that time, then I'm done with my homework, okay? In that time, be efficient with the thing that you're doing. So don't have your phone on, don't have the TV on, don't have a lot of noise around you if you can. Find a dedicated space where you can do that homework. And then do exercises which are actually useful to you, right? Again, if you've got to go away and research something, if you're spending hours and hours and hours and hours and hours reading something that isn't actually that useful, then you're not using your time efficiently. What we're after is a really good balance here. Okay, so we want enough time where we're getting the work done and helping us to achieve our goals, but we also want to make sure that we've made time for life, right? So you've got time to be sociable, you've got time to go and do your hobbies and things that you enjoy, and make sure you are trying as many of those things as you possibly can, okay? Work out what hobbies you might like to have a go at that you haven't tried before. Experiment with all of that sort of stuff, because all of those things are going to make you a better human being and more healthy, and they're also going to make you a better student and get you better grades at the end of it. Right. Lastly, tip number 5 is really important, and that is ask for help. Now, with all of these stages so far, it's unlikely you're going to know exactly how to do all of these things, but there are loads of people around you who do know how to do these things, who have lots of experience with them. right? First off, teachers. If you're not sure what to do in a particular subject, speak to that subject teacher. Ask them about it. If you're not sure why you're getting better, if you don't know how to get better with something, if you're struggling to enjoy a subject, talk to the teacher and they can give you some advice on it. If you're struggling with that, then I'm afraid next port of call is parents, okay? I know you might not want to talk to them, but they do have more experience than you, and they have been through the process themselves. They've been through school, they've been through study. They will have some tips on how to approach it, even if they seem like it might be particularly distant. And lastly is friends and peers. Okay, people around you will be going through the same thing as you. And even though you might think you're struggling with something on your own, I guarantee you there are about 4 or 5 people struggling in the same way. Ask those people for help. If they can give you something that gives you a little bit of assistance, sometimes it can make the difference between feeling really anxious about something and feeling a lot more confident.